In the distant past, long before the giants we know as dinosaurs, Earth held even older secrets. While much has been unveiled about the creatures that ruled the Mesozoic era, little is known about what transpired in the world before these living myths. Today, we invite you to embark on a journey through the timeline of our Mother Nature, our beloved planet Earth. Let's begin. About 530 million years ago, in the midst of the Cambrian Period, the Earth knew no life on its dry lands. Only invertebrates populated the vast oceans of that time. However, on the water's edge, evolution raced forward. Among the most remarkable creatures of that era was the Anomalocaris, considered the oldest and largest predatory anthropoid to ever inhabit our planet. Its diet consisted of primitive arthropods, which would eventually give rise to the insects and arachnids we know today. It was an age when the struggle for the top of the food chain unfolded intensely. Another milestone of this period was the Haecoichthys, one of the most primitive fish species ever known. It possessed a rudimentary backbone and is considered the ancestor of all vertebrates, including dinosaurs. Advancing through time, we reach the Silurian Period, approximately 418 million years ago. The Cephalaspis, a jawless creature measuring around 60 centimeters in length, thrived primarily on algae. In this scenario, arthropods, a group that includes spiders and insects, also evolved. A fierce competition for survival persisted for over 100 million years, resulting in creatures that, in some ways, resemble those found today. One example is the orthocone, a distant relative of cuttlefish, and the gigantic scorpion, measuring a meter in length, with gills and stingers the size of light bulbs. In those times, these creatures reigned as the top predators of the Silurian marine ecosystems, with the Cephalaspis as their primary target. The sea scorpion, with a body as massive as a crocodile, surpassed all other life forms, including other giant scorpions. It is believed that Earth was then a hostile place, with volcanic landscapes and an atmosphere toxic to humans. The availability of oxygen was significantly lower than today. However, even under such adverse conditions, life persisted. Cooksonia, the oldest known plant on Earth, grew with its branches and leaves reaching upward, eagerly seeking sunlight. As arthropods ventured onto dry land, they began to develop rudimentary lungs alongside their gills. We now move to the Devonian Period, approximately 360 million years ago. Evolution continued its course over millennia. The Cephalaspis evolved into the Hynerpeton, whose pharyngeal arches transformed into jaws and teeth. Now, they had the ability to hunt. Some fish began developing larger thin bones and muscles, which later evolved into primitive limbs. It is believed that this was the path these marine creatures took to conquer the land. The Hynerpeton inhabited the land for over 300 million years. Other creatures that preyed on it also colonized the land. However, none of them possessed rudimentary lungs capable of absorbing enough oxygen to sustain their bulky bodies. Over time, the Hynerpeton solved this issue by evolving into smaller forms. Only in the last 50 million years or so did plants evolve into trees and began releasing oxygen in abundance. Now, the Hynerpeton possessed well-developed complex lungs capable of oxygen absorption. However, even with this adaptation, the Hynerpeton spent most of its time in the water, despite the dangers. For example, they had to contend with other threatening species such as primitive sharks and the Hyneria, a carnivorous fish 5 meters long weighing up to 2 tons. During the Ice Age, approximately 300 million years ago, the Hynerpeton evolved into the Petrolicosaurus. This reptile could lay eggs on land, protected by a waterproof shell. It was the beginning of reptile species, with a body length of approximately 40 centimeters. At this time, Earth was mostly covered by vast swamp-like forests, composed of primitive trees, ancestors of ferns. Oxygen accounted for more than one-third of the air composition, further accelerating evolutionary processes and giving rise to new giant carnivorous arthropods. The reign of the top predator in this era belonged to giant dragonflies, such as the Meganeura, as large as an eagle, terrorizing the skies. Rising water levels created a favorable environment for the Petrolicosaurus, which still spent most of its life in the water. Another giant, the Arthropleura, a relative of today's many-legged creatures, had a body as large as a car. As water levels rose, it ventured into perilous territories inhabited by the Petrolicosaurus. Around 280 million years ago, at the beginning of the Permian Period, the Age of Giants came to an end. The climate became drier, and oxygen levels in the atmosphere gradually decreased. However, reptiles began multiplying in size and complexity. With thicker muscles and bones, larger heads, and rows of sharp teeth, they diversified into various shapes and sizes. This gave rise to the Edaphosaurus, a 3-meter-long reptile with a sail-like fin on its back, functioning like a solar panel. In this setting, the Edaphosaurus thrived and spread across the entire planet, reaching the size of a hippopotamus. Its arch-nemesis, the Dimetrodon, also around 3 meters in length with a dorsal sail, evolved into a formidable predator. By this time, these reptilian creatures not only laid eggs but also cared for them for up to 7 months until the young hatched. Earth underwent dramatic changes, with continents colliding to form Pangaea, and most regions transforming into deserts. This catastrophe was on a larger scale than the one that drove the dinosaurs to extinction. The future now rested in the hands of a small group of Lystrosaurus, the only species to survive the drought. By the beginning of the Triassic Period, approximately 248 million years ago, significant climate changes occurred. Life began to return to Earth, with coniferous forests and Lystrosaurus dominating the landscape. After the Permian-Triassic extinction, Lystrosaurus became the largest terrestrial animals of its time. However, a new species, the Euparkeria, emerged in coniferous forests with skeletons suited for bipedal locomotion, a clear advantage. This marked the beginning of the Age of Dinosaurs, which ruled the world for 80 million years. The Euparkerias, ancestors of dinosaurs, were small insectivorous reptiles known for their bipedal movement, a distinct advantage. The rivers and waters were home to Pristerosuchus, the oldest ancestors of crocodiles. Thus, we arrive at the Age of Dinosaurs, a period when these majestic creatures ruled the planet, dominating landscapes and adapting to a wide variety of environments. The history of life on Earth is a journey of adaptation and evolution, shaped by climate change and competition for resources, and it continues to fascinate us to this day. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time, exploring the origins and developments of life on our planet. If you enjoyed this narrative and would like more information on this topic and others, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive fresh and intriguing content. Now, if you want to learn more about the famous legend of the Loch Ness Monster, check out the video playing on your screen. See you next time.